We're in Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of people come here to retire, relax, play a little golf. Nah, that's not you. It's not me. We're here for the Busch Series Happy Hour, and it's coming up next on Speed.
And the beautiful mountains outside of Phoenix, Arizona. The NASCAR Busch Series continues to move west. This weekend, they call home the Phoenix International Raceway. But last week at the Great American Raceway, Texas, it was a big one. Shane Meal, the 32 car, very fast in qualifying, led the field to the green with his pole. Michael Waltrip, not a great day. He tagged the wall. Then Tony Stewart in the Harvick Chevrolet, he hit the outside and inside. Another disappointing weekend for the 8-team. Great pit stop there by Haskell. Beats everybody off pit road. And then Justin Labonte, 48 hours after inducting his father into the Texas Motorsports Hall of Fame, he gets in the wall, as does several others. And then the 5-car, Blake Feast and Ashton Lewis Jr. get together. More damage for the defending series champion, Martin Truex. Disappointment continues, but not for Casey Kane, who scored his second career NASCAR Busch Series win, holding off the 66 of Greg Biffle. And I think the hat needed to have a little bit of an adjustment. It looked almost too big.
What is Dick Berggren? Where is he headed with all this? It was the cowboy hat at Texas, and now he's a golfer. I think maybe he should have been golfing with the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was not a very good cowboy, and he definitely needs to work on that golf game.
And the bad thing about it was he had a putter. That was just, he needed, at least a lofted wedge. But we're back here at Phoenix. Beautiful landscape, beautiful manicured grass, but a beautiful raceway. And when you look at this racetrack, Brian Sperber and the people here at Phoenix have done a great job. They've taken over the crossover bridge, put in a tunnel last year. But Larry Mack, this is a weekend of firsts and a lot of firsts.
Well, it is. We're about a fourth of the way through this season, and this is the first night race of 2005. This will be the first time that we've ever raced under the lights here at PRR. This is the first time we've come here in the spring, and it's a little warm. And we've been coming here for 18 years, and this will be the first time that the teams will actually race here twice. In fact, the race in the fall will be in the Chase for the Cup. This is the first 1-mile racetrack in 2005, and if that's not enough, remember all the Busch Series races are impound, and I think this is the first time this year, Jeff, that these guys will absolutely get no practice in race conditions.
And Larry, when you talk about the fact that they're not going to get a chance to practice in race conditions, which are really late in the evening, think about it like this. When you look around this racetrack, right now, when you look down the front straightaway, driving off into turn 1, we already see patches, what look like shadows because of the grandstands. You go around turn 1 in through part of turn 2, there's a little small patch of daylight, but still a lot of coverage on this racetrack that's going to create uncertainty for a lot of the drivers that don't really know PRR. When I think about what was going on in the garage here today, I went over and talked to guys like Greg Biffle. They've raced here at different times of the year besides, late in the fall. They've raced here actually in January. They've tested here. They have an idea of what goes on at this racetrack. Guys like Tony Stewart, for example, J.J. Yeley, Copper Classic winners, they know how this racetrack will change when it's cool. So when you talk to them, they say, we may have just a little bit of advantage of what this racetrack is all about under cool conditions.
Now, if you talk to a lot of different people in the garage area, one team to watch this weekend is the 41 team. Reed Sorensen had a great run last week at Texas, had another top 5 finish. Their year just continues to impress, and Dick Berggren has more. Dick?
Yeah, and I may not be so good at Cowboys and Indians, and I may not be so good at golf, but I know what I like, and I like this kid, Reed Sorensen. His last 3 starts, he's got a win and a pair of third-place finishes. He has never raced here at Phoenix, but in the first practice session today, you were the fastest guy on the racetrack. What are you doing hanging around with me while everybody's out there on the speedway?
Well, we're only planning on making one run. We'll probably go out here in about 10 or 20 minutes and try to get the car out there when, race time's going to be, because we start at 6 tomorrow night. So we're just going to do a long 20-lap run. We're going to get the air pressures down low and see what the car does on old tires.
19 years old. Let me tell you what he'll do on old tires or new tires. You'll find him up front, Matt.
Well, so far in this final practice session for the NASCAR Busch Series, The Bashas 250 to be run tomorrow night under the lights here at PIR. Ashton Lewis Jr., someone who needs to get a good run. He is the fast man so far in this final practice.
Now, I think you already heard there's a little bit of strategy going on there with Brian Patty and his group, thinking we want to catch the racetrack as close as we can to what it's going to be like tomorrow night. They're still going to have to kind of get through their qualifying session now, Matt, because once they get through running today's final practice, when they qualify, it's going to be at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. So this track is going to be extremely hot, extremely slick. So you've got to think about, well, do I worry about qualifying or do I really focus in here on the race? The guys that are already locked in, I think you're going to see them basically say, Larry, I'm not worried about qualifying. If I can get this car going like I need to, I'll pass all the cars that I'm going to be behind in the starting field if I get my car working like I need to during this final practice.
The other thing they accomplished by limiting their runs in this final practice, making one long run, remember they're limited to the number of sets of tires they have. This will somewhat save them maybe an extra set of tires for this 200-lap race tomorrow night.
And you see the 64 car, Jamie McMurray, not driving for the team that he won with here last fall. In the Rusty Wallace Top Flight car right in front of Tony Stewart and the Harvick 33, who's, battling some burns from last week at Texas. And Jamie McMurray, what a run he's had here last year. He bounces back from a 34th, a 33rd, and the 38th place finish in 2000, 01, and 02, and wins here last year. And it was a great race.
Yeah, and it was in that 41 car that
Absolutely.
he won that race. And remember, had a good run going at Texas last week. Looked like he was going to finish in the top 5 in this 64 car. And the kill switch, the kill button on the steering wheel, evidently got hit. He hit the kill switch, shut the power off, and they didn't realize that till they were in the garage area and had lost a number of laps. And I just do not like that kill switch on that steering wheel.
No, I don't.
And so many teams have now put a light on the dash so that when that kill switch is engaged, I know Ryan Newman, after it bit him, I believe 2 years ago, cost him the win at Darlington. They put a special light on the dash so when he engages that kill switch, he knows it so they don't lose valuable time. Well, we've got a full weekend of racing here at PIR. Special races under the lights. And just a lot of plain shows everywhere, starting tonight. Practice coming up for the Nextel Cup Series right here on Speed. And then tomorrow, NASCAR Busch Series qualifying 4:30 Eastern, followed by Nextel Cup qualifying at 6. And then on FX, the NASCAR Busch Series Bashas 250. Saturday, NASCAR This Morning, JR and the gang. Actually, it's going to be a night show. They ought to change that. 6 p.m. Eastern. And over on the big and bodacious Fox, 7:30 Eastern, the Subway Fresh 500, followed by NASCAR Victory Lane at 11 p.m.
NASCAR This Morning in the evening.
In the evening.
Okay, now look at this right here. Let's watch this golf swing here.
Look, see,
Strike one.
that's trouble right there. His feet are bouncing back, Larry Mack.
Strike two.
He's got to keep his left arm straight.
Oh,
Strike
Tiger
three, you're
Woods
outta
have a
here.
nightmare over this. NASCAR Busch Series final practice here on Speed, live from the Phoenix International Raceway. Ashton Lewis Jr., the fastest man so far here at PIR, followed by David Green, Greg Biffle, Denny Hamlin in the 20 car, and Stacy Compton in the 59. There's Martin Truex Jr., defending series champion. Had a kind of a struggling type of a day here last fall, but wound up with a great top 5 finish.
Now, Matt, you would think this would be a pretty good track for him, because to me it's a lot like Milwaukee, and I think he's been raced there several times, and you would think he would be able to adapt to this place pretty easy as you take a look at the way his season's been going, though, guys.
I think that's part of the key right there, those 2 DNFs, and right now he is 7th in points. This is a brand new car they brought here, untested. It had never seen the racetrack until they unloaded it today.
And that can be kind of tough when you come to a racetrack and having to chase all the temperature changes and all the different scenarios that's going to be thrown at them this weekend. Those guys must have a lot of confidence in their ability to get this car like they wanted in a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, who would ever believed, 8 races into this 2005 Busch Series season, that the highlight of his season would be a road course win in Mexico. That's pretty much been the highlight of the whole season for these guys.
Oh, absolutely. I remember at the NASCAR Busch Series banquet in December, as you're looking at the current championship point leader, Carl Edwards, in the 60 car. Everybody was saying, who is going to be able to step up and chase that championship with Martin. They were almost writing him in as the champion for 2005. And look at these two young guys that that have really stepped up, Carl Edwards and also Reed Sorensen.
And Matt, when you say that, I think that was where everybody kind of like did not give Carl Edwards and this Roush operation their fair due. When you think about Reed Sorensen driving for the Ganassi operation, these two young men have basically surprised, I think, a lot of folks how they can race not only aggressively, but score points and be smart about it.
And you can see how he has really cut into that lead. 105 points after Atlanta and just whittled it down week in, week out. And this young man just continues to impress, as does Carl Edwards.
And the biggest thing about Carl Edwards is you can see him get a little bit loose off turn 4 right there on into this long run. But the biggest thing about Carl Edwards, Reed Sorensen, not to mention third place in the points, Flint Boyer, those 3 race teams, they have completed every lap of competition this year. And Jeff, just watching Carl Edwards go around here, and I know all the years that I worked on race cars here, Phoenix is almost like a compromise. You go through 3 and 4 here, get the car to rotate right there in the middle of the corner, and then you're going to run across some new asphalt right there. That's where the tunnel is. And late exit, the car will want to get loose off of turn 4 on the front stretch. You drive off into turn 1, and getting the car to turn right here and continuing to turn off the corner. It wants to push all the way up on the straightaway. The front end wants to slide.
Push all the way up on the front straight on that straightaway area, and then that back dog leg also can be a real big challenge getting off of turn 2. If you don't get off that corner, you can lose a lot of valuable speed right there. And guys, if you take a look right there, you will see Johnny Sauter in the 1 car, and a lot of people are going to say, well, hey, I thought that the 1 car wasn't going to be here this weekend, and they were in a lot of trouble from last weekend. But
I mean, he fills up our news and notes file for this week. I mean, Larry Mack, when you look at the post-race inspection, they found an illegal carburetor, and it pretty much took off from there.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to gather all the information I could gather. I talked to Mark Reno, the general manager for Phoenix Racing, yesterday morning. I talked to Joe Ballas, competition director for the Busch Series, yesterday afternoon. And the Busch Series, they have a carburetor rule. The only difference in a Busch Series engine and a Nextel Cup engine is the size of the carburetor. The Busch cars run a smaller carburetor that takes about 80 or 85 horsepower away. Now remember, Texas was an impound race, and when these cars qualified, they were impounded. Well, this car finished 14th, which normally is not torn down after the race, but they have a random draw, and they drew this car's number, so after the race, finishing 14th, they found the carburetor, as Joe Ballas put it, excessively big. Now remember, the crew chief is fully responsible for everything. And my question to Joe was, how did that happen? How did that carburetor slide through? And he said, well, Larry, and Mark Reno supported this too, there was random carburetor changes during the final practice before qualifying. And as Joe put it, it almost would be like if a team showed up with fuel cell A and well into the practice said, you know what, I have a fuel pickup problem. I need to try fuel cell B. And they put fuel cell B in it, and right before practice is over, they said, oh, my problem's not the fuel cell. I'm going to put fuel cell A back in, but they put fuel cell C back in. And it was almost like a shell game with the carburetors. The carburetor was too big, so after the race, they completely disqualified the 1 car, like they did not even show up. And some people, when the fine came out on Tuesday, or the penalty, they suspended Joe Sear Jr., the crew chief, for 4 races. Well, they said, well, we don't understand how come they didn't fine them or take points away.
But they did.
Well, they did, because 14th place was 121 points and over $32,000. But right now, Joe Shear Jr., he's here at the racetrack. They are appealing the disqualification and the suspension. There's still a lot of holes in this story, but I think for the most part, that seems to be the bullet points of everything, is they had a carburetor that was illegal.
Carburetor was illegal, and Monday they'll go in front of the appeals board, and Joe will know exactly what his fate is over the remainder of the season. You know, after last week, he was going to be suspended for 4 races and put on probation for the remainder of the season. So, you know, Monday will be a big day for everybody at Phoenix, along with Joe Shear.
And the one thing we do need to clear up, and Mark Reno supported this, and Joe Ballas, there was a lot of stories floating around that the carburetor got changed after qualifying, during the impound, or maybe even during the race, and that right there was absolutely false. It did whatever carburetor they qualified with, they raced with, and that's the one that was found in post-race inspection.
There you can see on board with Timmy Fito as he goes off down into turn 1. You can see the change as he goes into the sun, back in the shadows, back in the sun again, as we continue our coverage of final practice here on Speed. front straightaway back toward turn 4 as the McDonald's car heads off down into turn 1. We continue our final practice coverage here on Speed. Denny Hamlin, the rookie in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing.
I talked to Denny this morning, and I couldn't help but get tickled at him because I think his performance this year has been overshadowed by the performance of Carl Edwards and Reed Sorensen. This guy is tied for 5th in points. He's completed all but 1 lap of competition. You see his last 3 finishes, and I looked at him, I said, well, how do you think it's going? He said, can you believe I'm tied for 5th in Busch Series points, and I'm 3rd in the rookie points battle? He said it does not make sense, does it? But you know, we're going to all these racetracks for the first time. The first time he had ever seen Phoenix was when they rolled in here today, with exception, as he told me, on his computer game.
And in 2 weeks, we'll be at Darlington, the Darlington Raceway. He made his debut there last year, impressed everyone with a top 10 finish. And I think everyone said at that point, this is a guy we're going to have to watch next year when he gets with that Gibbs car full time.
He's really having an awfully good year, and I sat there and talked to him for quite a while this morning, and you know, we talked about what he was doing this time a year ago, and he said, I was late model racing on Saturday night up around the South Boston, Virginia area.
And Ashton Lewis Jr. having a very solid first part of the season, currently 5th in the driver championship standings, and Dick has more.
Sure do. He is running really well here, Matty. He was 3rd in the first practice this afternoon, and right now he is the fastest man on campus. He has just been here in the garage area. And by the way, there is no garage in Phoenix. It's just a big open place, but everybody calls it the garage area anyhow. He has just been here, and they made a minor track bar adjustment to try to get more forward bite. I just asked one of the mechanics how the car is loose. He said, nope, tight, nope, just fast. Ashton Lewis looking for his first top 5. Could well come tomorrow night.
And Jeff, just like you mentioned earlier, you can see that the difference between the sun and as the sun starts to dip behind those grandstands.
That's the one thing when we talked about those shadow areas, what we're really looking at here is that as the track starts to cool off, when one end of the track cools off faster than the other, it's going to present problems because the cars will have a lot of grip at the lower end or turn 1 and 2. But when you get up to 3 and 4, when the sun's still on that, the car's going to slip and slide around. So the crew chief doesn't know exactly what to do, and he has to pretty much rely on the driver. Hey, you got to deal with one end or the other. I'll work on one end or the other, but you got to drive through the part that you don't like.
Now, as a crew chief, let me throw in the equation of the gear rule. And will that place more of an emphasis on the brakes now?
I think so, because they're not pulling as much gear, so the car won't slow down. As we take a look at the other young phenomenon, Reed Sorensen in the 41 car, he's just been impressing everybody. But yes, Matt, when you do that, he gets a little bit loose right in the middle of the corner coming up off of turn 3. He's got his hands full, but doing a really good job. But when you get down at the other end and you got to slow the car down, if you've got a lower gear, it kind of like decelerates itself, a little easier on the brakes. But this time, they have a little bit different gear rules, so you got to rely on the brakes a lot more than ever. But the good thing about it is, guys, the temperature should be cooler, so the air that goes to the brakes should be a little more effective.
Yeah, the lowest gear these guys can pull here this weekend is a 471. A lot of these guys were pulling a 486 and even lower when we were here in the fall. A lot more RPMs. Remember, the higher number is a lower gear.
Reed Sorensen 3rd last week at the Texas Motor Speedway, and he is the fastest Dodge here at Phoenix, currently 4th during final practice. Play the official fantasy games of Speed Channel. Speed Fantasy Cup Auto Racing 2005. Go to speedtv.com and register for Speed Fantasy Cup Auto Racing 2005. Play Speed Racing Edge, no entry required. Play Speed Racing Edge fantasy game for a chance to win $2,500. Just log on to speedtv.com. And Martin Truex Jr., defending series champion, he is currently 15th fastest during this final practice, and Dick Bergwood has more.
Yeah, he was just 12th fastest in the first practice of the day. They're in the process of changing a right front spring in his car right now. Got about half the crew leaning on the back of the car. That relieves the pressure on the spring in the front, makes it easier to change. I just talked to his crew chief, Bono Mannion, and Bono said that they're not at all worried about not being the fastest guys on campus right now. What they are worried about, however, is getting this car set up in the heat of the day so that it will be fast tomorrow night when the sun is gone, when it's dark, when it's cool, when the racetrack has got a lot of yuck on it as well. So that's what they're focused on the last few laps, not this. They're not going to win this practice, but they don't care about that. They want to win the race tomorrow night.
That almost sounds like a crew chief's nightmare.
It really is, but yuck. I think I've heard a lot of things as far as analogies are concerned. What's yuck, Larry?
I'm not sure on that one. I heard a lot of descriptions, but not sure.
Well, but I can promise you, if Dick Berggren is putting it out there, it's not the kind of stuff you want to be racing on.
Well, it's certainly not the performance of this guy driving the 6th car this week. Casey Kane, who won last week at Texas, scoring his 2nd career NASCAR Busch Series victory, bringing it back down pit road. Best finish here at Phoenix, 11th. That came last year. Had a great Nextel Cup car as well.
Yeah, and again, you know, he's in the Ray Evernham car this week. This car, the 6th car, they are running all of the races. They started the season off with Paul Wolf, part of the Hungry Drivers program, and things did not go where it should be. So they've been kind of going back and forth between Jeremy Mayfield, Casey Kane. I think later on in the year, Aaron Crocker will drive this car, maybe a race or two. But the 38 car that Casey won with at Texas last week, it's running all the races. But remember, Tyler Walker is scheduled to run some of those races. Right now, Casey Kane is 8th quickest in his practice session.
And he's heading back to the garage where our Dick Berggren's standing by.
Yeah, and they got their work cut out for him on that particular car, Mike. I was just listening, or Matty, I was just listening to him on the scanner, and he was saying that the left rear wheel is driving the nose of the car, so that's making it push through part of the turn, but then when he's trying to exit the corner, the back end is hanging out on him a little bit. So a lot of work yet to go on Casey Kane's car before he's going to be happy with it.
But I would say, Dick, what they'll have to do is work on first things first. They're going to have to get that thing where when he picks the throttle up, that it does not shove the nose, because there's a good chance when they get that calmed down that they may fix the other problem, because what's happening, he keeps turning the wheels more and more, and then the front finally bites and the rear gets loose. So you have to almost work on first things first.
You got to do what you got to identify the problem and then figure out the right kind of combination or compromise to make everybody happy.
Yeah, they may have to soften the left rear spring to take some of that drive out, then maybe put some static wedge or bite in it to tighten it up late exit.
Exactly right. We take a look right here at, I believe it's the onboard car from Kevin Harvick. He's coming back in. Undoubtedly, he wasn't real happy with what he was feeling right then, so he's headed back down pit road and into the garage area to make a little more of an adjustment to his 21 car.
Back in the 21 car this week and next week, and then Brandon Miller will retake the seat of the 21 car at Darlington. Like you mentioned, Larry Mack, kind of throwing him to the wolves this week. Watching the 2 car here, the Blue Deuce. Yeah, he double duty this weekend, or trying to.
No, I tell you what now, Matt, I watched him early on in the Nextel Cup practice session. It was just before us, and he really looked good in that 33 car for Richard Childress. And so far this year, he's had 4 starts in the top 5, and his average start's been like 9th, and his best start was 2nd. But tomorrow, I think, once again, these guys aren't going to be worried about where they're starting at. It's where they're going to be and how good they're going to be during the course of the race late in the evening.
I asked him, when was the last time you pulled double duty? He says, well, at Lakeside Speedway in Missouri, I ran a dirt late model and a modified. That was on the same night, so I guess that counts. So he's hoping to make his first Cup start this weekend here in Phoenix. And the San Marino GP practice live tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. out on the West Coast. The big question, can Michael Schumacher finally get it all together for Ferrari, get his first win of the season?
Or what a difference rule changes make.
Absolutely. And there's Tony Stewart in the 33 car this week, the Mr. Clean Auto Dry Chevrolet, currently running in the 18th position. Now, we told you earlier he's still battling some first and second degree burns. Now, his win at Daytona, he had a 2nd place at Atlanta, gave away a great run going at California when they had a tire going down, and then last week at Texas, another chance for a top 5 or possibly a win, went away in a crash. His first Phoenix NASCAR Busch Series race, but he has raced just about everything open wheel here at Texas.
You know, you saw on that stat right there, 45 career Busch Series starts. I did not realize the Busch Series had been as hard on Tony as it had been. Yeah, he got his very first Busch Series win at Daytona earlier in the year, but out of the 45 career Busch Series starts, he's had 18 DNFs, and that's tough right there.
I gotta wonder though how many times he was involved in a crash while leading. Remember last year at Kansas,
Well, here was the crash last week at Texas coming off turn 2. And what it appeared is Brandon Miller in the 21 car checked up. We saw that all weekend long there. Tony Stewart in the 33 car checked up, but the car behind him, Stanton Barrett, did not. Now, this was what you were talking about.
This is the fire in the Nextel Cup car. Look how long
engine
that car
exploded, and yeah, he was in there for a very, very long time. As you said, he had some slight burns on his leg, but he did get out. I talked to him a little earlier today, and a little uncomfortable, but doing well.
You know, and a lot of people said, hey, this year he's wearing the Hans device. And up until Texas, he had never tried to get out of a race car in an emergency situation like that, and he was surprised at how rapid his pace was to get out of that car when it was on fire, like you mentioned.
But when somebody's after you with a flaming blowtorch, basically, you want to get out of here, and I think Dick has more on Tony. Dick?
Yeah, right now he's in the garage area, and Butch Hilton, his crew chief, has just ordered the car jacked up and put on jack stands for what he just described as major changes in the automobile. Obviously not performing up to Tony's expectations, which is a big surprise because Tony Stewart and this team and this car have been fast every time they have been together. Let these guys make their changes. He'll be fast tomorrow night, too. Butch, in fact, has got the wrench in the back end of the car himself. Everybody's working on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, Dick, Tony himself has had a lot of success here. He won a Nextel Cup race here, I think, his rookie season, 1999. And so, yeah, not only has this team had a lot of success this year, but Tony's had a lot of success here.
His last win came here in an open wheel midget, I believe, in Copper World. And, you know, one thing, when you look at this team, and they're swapping back and forth between Tony Raines and Tony Stewart, as you're looking at his car owner, Kevin Harvick. You know,
no way.
His car owner
is out there taking care of the dog right now. I was walking earlier. That was Delana.
I'm just telling him that so that way mentally he feels good that we think that he's actually the car.
No, you're just saying that where he won't be on you. I know what the method to your madness is. You won't be calling your cell phone after the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the guys, going back to your buddy Tony Stewart right there, that we all know how good he is here at Phoenix. I once again want to go back and say he may be telling Butch Hilton, look, I know what this track's going to do. I've raced here enough, and if we'll do these things, we'll be okay. We got a car up against the wall right there in the middle of 3 and 4. It looked like Denny Hamlin got up out of the groove. It was all up very close to the wall, but he came off and comes on down the front straightaway. Looks like he's got no damage to the 20 car right now.
As you're watching the 5 car now, last year, this team, which most of the team members from this team from 2004, they've kind of separated out between the 25 of Vickers and Cup and also the 5 of Kyle Busch in Cup. 3 team members remain. Now this week, last week it was Blake Feast. This week it's Boston Reed who's behind the wheel, trying to work more on that driver development program at Hendrick.
And, Matt, that's got to be a little bit of a challenge for this crew whenever you see as many different drivers in the 5 car as they're having right now. That's going to challenge this crew, which is relatively a young group of guys, and they're trying to work together with different drivers. It's going to be a big challenge for him.
Now he's going to take that car back to the garage to work on it more, and David Green is already back in the garage. And David, your car looks very fast today, second quick.
Thanks, man. So far, so good with our CleanX Ford. And, you know, this racetrack, once they moved the wall back, I personally had some problems on not letting the car hang out a little bit on turn 2. We've been still trying to miss that invisible wall over there, but Stewart and the guys have done a great job, and this Goodyear tire feels awful good.
Now your teammate Greg Biffle runs so well here. How close are you two in setup?
We're pretty much identical. I mean, there's probably a couple little things that are probably fairly minor that we're different on, and you know, our cars, the bodies could be a little bit different, but for the most part our setups are the same. And you know, that's one thing all year long we've been trying to pull closer and closer together, because it seems like each and every track we go to, Greg's already had you know, laps on the racetrack in a Cup car there, or several more laps, and we're trying to help our team in transition with our new Fords as well. So far so good. It's good to see us both up here.
David, you just mentioned it. We're about a 1/4 of the way through this season, and yeah, a slow start for the CleanX team. As you mentioned, the swap from Chevrolet over to Ford. You are basically working with a new crew chief, Stuart Cooper, even though he's been with the race team. But I'm starting to see some life with your race team. In fact, you guys are inching closer to the top 10 in points, only 44 points out of 10th right now.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. And as you well know, when there's change, it takes a little bit of time. But, you know, I've been very, very happy with our performance, the way our cars have ran. our Yates Rouse engines have done tremendous. The people at Ford Motor Company has given us a great opportunity here, and Stewart, the guys really that leaped at that opportunity. But, you know, whenever you break a part here, there, and yonder that's no fault of the team, it's hard to gain those points back. So we've been in the top 10 already once this year, and we fell back because we had some issues. But, hey, my team's performing well, and at night I can really sleep well knowing that my Kleenex Ford's going to run the way I want it to run on race day, and my car's doing everything I needed to do. We just need to have a little lady luck. And, you know, I look over there and see Bobby Labonte on top of the truck, and I want to stay as far away from him as I can because he's had the worst luck out of everybody.
Well, good luck tomorrow in NASCAR Busch Series qualifying day.
Thanks, guys. Good talking to you.
7th in points last year in the NASCAR Busch Series. Hasn't won, though, since Kansas in 2003, trying to end that drought this weekend. One of the fast cars here, but the fastest now is Michael Waltrip in the 99 car, followed by Lewis, David Green, Biffle, and Reed. Coming up after the NASCAR Busch Series, pulling back in the garage for the final time, it's Nextel Cup final practice live right here on Speed.
So on an impound race, is it actually called happy hour or just final practice?
I don't think it's ever really truly a happy hour.
I had a few, but very few.
Final.
All I know is it was always a pain in my behind.
Driver screaming,
Driver screaming. It was nobody was ever happy. It's just like, you know, they can say what they want to. I think that was a play on words right there, trying to be calm, cool, and collective.
All the time.
Let's go back to the garage and Dick Berggren.
Well, I just talked to Denny Hamlin, stuck my head in the window. I said, car a little bit loose, and he rolled his eyes as he looked at me, and he said, I guess you could say that. He said, how close you come to the wall? He said, I don't know, maybe a foot or so. Well, they're doing a lot of work in the back end of the car to make sure he stays off the wall.
Well, Dick, you tell him right now they're doing the right thing. Because up here, when I see him go off into turn 3 and it took off to the wall, it's a good thing that he had that extra foot. Otherwise, we'd be getting the backup off the truck and for the 20 crew. So they need to make some pretty good adjustments to that car.
Besides going to a lot of racetracks for the very first time, he also has a new crew chief. Started out the year with Trip Bruce. Cully Barraclaw came over from Matt Kenseth's NASCAR Busch Series team. And what kind of transition is that, not only for any driver, but for a rookie driver?
I think a lot of that has to do with how well they know each other. Can they talk to one another? And undoubtedly, when they made the choice to go after Cully, there must have been some synergy between the two long before they went that direction, because you just don't normally make this kind of transition unless you have good reason to do so.
Hey, guys, just looking at the practice chart right now, we're looking at Mark Green, the 23 car. He just went to the top of the charts. He ran 2 laps. He went to 5th quickest on the first lap. Now he's the quickest car. Remember, this is one of those cars, go or go home. They are not in the top 30 Nona points. Now, this car is normally driven by Shauna Robinson, but, Jeff, I think you saw Shauna in the garage. It's like they've called on Mark Green to come over and maybe just try to help them out to see what they needed to work on. What was the weakest point? Yeah, and that's what you're doing right there. Sometimes you will make a driver change or ask a driver to come help you out a little bit when the team can't quite find its way and see, is it the car, or, you know, are we missing the setup through the information you're giving us, and try to make the team, you know, kind of stabilize and be able to get it back on track. And that was a good run by Mark Green.
You know, back in his old sprint car days, Dr. Dirt Dick Berggren, he went through a few crew chiefs. Dick?
Yeah, just a couple. Not too many, really. I had one guy that stuck with me for virtually the whole time, Doug Moore, and we're still good buddies, and he still works for me in the magazine. But you were talking, Hammond was talking a few moments ago about Cully Barraclaw maybe having some great chemistry with him and driver Denny Hamlin. Let me tell you what the chemistry might be. Cully Barraclaw, as of today, has 30 starts in the NASCAR Busch Series. He has won 6 times. That's enough for some chemistry. Pretty good record.
Good motivation right there. Yes, sir.
Well, maybe he can break through and score his first career win, like Reed Sorensen and a few others this year. We've had 6 races here at Phoenix, 6 different NASCAR Busch Series race winners. We're back in Phoenix. NASCAR Beyond the Wheel tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern on Speed, and then the Speed coverage continues. Busch Pole qualifying, 3:30 Eastern live. Continue on marking your TV calendar. Bud Pole qualifying for the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And then NASCAR Trackside, 7:30. Who do you guys have on the show this week?
We have the winner
Elliott
from
Sadler.
Texas, Greg Biffle and Elliott Sadler. And we have the man we talked about doing a little double duty this week here for the first time. We have Clint Boyer.
You guys have a full lineup.
Full lineup.
A great lineup. And the guests aren't bad either.
Well, Mark Green having a very good day so far in the 23 cars. We're watching the pole sitter from last week, the 32 is Shane Meal. Things going good so far for you, Mark.
Yeah, Matt, it's going really good. You know, I'm glad that Keith Coleman Racing and Vassarette gave me the opportunity to come and, you know, try to help the team, you know, figure out some things, maybe make the organization better. And got a good car here, great motor with Bill Davis Motors, and we're really looking forward to it.
Well, Mark, the thing is right now, you've done that quite a bit in your career. You know, you've gotten in a lot of different cars, and it seems like as soon as you step in, I mean, recently you were in the 7 car, did a great job at Bristol in that car, and here you are coming up and sitting in as 23. A lot of people got a lot of confidence in your ability to kind of sort things out.
Yeah, they do, Jeff, and I really appreciate those offers and opportunities. You know, I wish I could land somewhere and stay a little while. I think I could make it even better, but just really grateful to Vassarette giving me the opportunity. Great sponsor, and this is a good team. They've got really good race cars, and I think it'll show this weekend.
Mark, your team, it's somewhat caught between the rock and the hard place here, because I know you want to spend time getting your car ready to race, but you are not locked into this show. Have you been able to work any today on race setup? I have to believe that last run maybe was a real qualifying run.
It was, Larry, and you know, that's a good question. The guys that's not locked in, you know, it's kind of a hard situation because we want to work on race stuff to where we can race good, but then again, if you don't get in the show, it don't matter. But we have the whole first session, we worked on race stuff, and then the first half hour here we did. So that was just, we put what we thought we should do to it for that 2-lap run, and it was pretty good.
Well, good luck this weekend, Mark.
Thanks, Matt, Jeff, and Larry. Good to talk to y'all, and appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. He's currently in the 4th position, Mark Green. David Strimming, the 14 car jumped up there as we're watching the 44. Justin Labonte out on the racetrack in the Coast Guard Chevrolet.
It's almost like as this practice session is winding down, even though qualifying is the middle of the day tomorrow, these guys are starting to work on a little bit of qualifying run here. Now, we just talked about David Stremme. He now has been bumped back to 2nd. Greg Biffle is to the top of the charts. But, Jeff, you and I talked to David a little earlier today. He had a pretty neat experience earlier this week.
Yeah, can you believe it? David Stremme went out to San Diego and went down to where the Navy SEALs are actually trained, and he hung out with those guys. And it's really one of those places where I don't think I'd want to go, Larry. I mean, I consider myself a pretty tough guy, but they were talking about having, hey, 180 candidates come in and only 18 surviving. I mean, they really separate the men from the boys down there. And David, my hat's off to you for going down there and spending a little time. I think he even took Terry Bradshaw with him.
I was going to say that was the scariest part, is Armando Fitz is one of his owners, and Terry Bradshaw's down there training with the Navy SEALs. I'm not sure if I can even visualize that one.
Now, last year, yeah, it is tough to visualize. Last year, the driver of the 66 car, Greg Biffle, he had 5 wins, second to Martin Truex's 6, and Dick can add more.
Yeah, Russ Thompson was just listening to his radio. You hear some really neat stuff when you're listening to the radio down here during happy hour. And Russ picked up Biffle saying that he was going to go out for just a couple laps. His spotter agreed that he was going to get him in a position, get him on the racetrack where he had a nice, clear racetrack. Nobody in front of him, nobody beside him, nobody around him. And then Biffle wanted to know which of the next 2 laps was going to be the fastest. That was his effort to see how quickly the car would go for qualifying.
And when you talk about qualifying here, the Biff, his starts 4th, 1st, 2nd, and 2nd. And he has 4 top 10 finishes in 4 NASCAR Busch Series starts here.
As they say right there, he is in the zona. He's
all-time lap leader here at the Phoenix International Raceway as the sun continues to set here in Arizona. And the Biff, currently the fastest driver here in the Valley of the Sun, followed by Stremme. Martin Truex jumps up, as does Compton and Kenny Wallace. Tomorrow, NASCAR FX returns with Busch Series Racing from Phoenix. NASCAR's current and future stars meet on the same track and go door to door to see who will take the checkers. Busch Series Racing tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern on FX.
Under the lights in the
Under
desert.
the lights.
That's going to be so cool.
You can see as the sun continues to set, Kenny Wallace looking very solid so far in this final practice, currently 6th.
Man, I got an opportunity to talk to some of his crew members this morning just to say, hey, you guys look like you're kind of getting this thing put together. He was up to 3rd in the points, and you know, Kenny had a real strong run a couple of weeks ago, and they said, hey, Kenny has given us such great feedback. We're able to get our cars dialed in better than ever, and we really feel like this could be the week. If not this week, it could be Richmond in the future. I mean, there's some great racetracks coming up for Kenny Wallace and his team, so they're pretty excited about their opportunity maybe to go to Victory Lake.
And when you look at this final practice session, guys, a lot of different agendas. Now, moments ago, we saw the 64 car, the guy who won here last year, Jamie McMurray, coming down pit road, and we're talking about scuffing tires.
Well, the Busch Series, they have to qualify on sticker brand new tires. So what Jamie McMurray is doing, he's trying to scuff some of the newness off and get a little bit of heat on them, because I think we've already seen, we talked about Mark Green's run a while ago, the quicker lap was on lap 2. So it's almost like the more heat you got in the tires, the faster they ran.
And there's the 64 car. McMurray back in the garage area.
Guys, it looks like to me he may be taping her up again, topping her off with fuel, getting ready to make one more last effort right here. They got about 5 minutes to go in this practice session, so it'll be real interesting to see how that kind of plays out if we take a look at the 4 car with Ryan Hemphill at the wheel.
Right now, he's 12th quickest, a lot like Mark Green, Joe Nemechek, Michael Waltrip, Jerry Robertson. Some of these cars are go or go home. They have to qualify on time tomorrow night.
And there's the Biff talking to Newt Moore. Same car they ran very strong with at Bristol. Top 10 finish.
This is riding with Michael Waltrip in the 99 car. Right now, Michael's 13th quickest. This is going down the dog leg. The dog leg here is in the back stretch. It looks like right now he may be coming back to pit road to the garage area. See him drop down to the apron.
Goes down on that apron.
Scuffing those tires in, it looks like. Just like we saw Jamie McMurray doing a while ago.
And let's catch up with Dick Berger, and he has the Biff.
Well, Greg Biffle, quite a weekend last weekend. First in the Cup Series, second in the Busch Series. Now you're leading practice. What are you eating for breakfast that's making you so fast?
This morning I had a banana and a coffee.
I'm switching to a banana and coffee for breakfast.
Yeah, but no, I'll tell you what, these guys over here at Brewco do a really good job. And, you know, it's the first race for Hinkle on the race car this week. And last time I had a new sponsor, which was Post-it Notes. We won the race. So hopefully we'll have a good run here and get that Cup car a little bit better.
He's won and won and won here at this racetrack. So watch Greg Biffle tomorrow night under the lights here at Phoenix.
He has been so strong here. His qualifying effort, his finishing effort. The all-time lap leader, Greg Biffle, now leads everybody in this final practice session. It's a 25 car. Ashton Lewis Jr., he's currently 15th, trying to finish out this final practice session, get as much on-track time as he can.
You know, you talk about on-track time, if you're looking down the entry list here. We got, what, 9 regular Nextel Cup drivers that are competing in this race tomorrow night, trying to get a little bit of extra valuable, I think, seat time. Maybe have an opportunity to figure out what this racetrack's going to do so they can, you know, think about that. And here's a guy that we haven't seen a lot of this year in the Busch Series, but he's been driving race cars for quite a while. Scott Legacy Jr. in the Armando Fitz number 40 car, normally driven by Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, Carlos Contreras actually drove it over to road course. Sterling Marlin has driven it the rest of the races, but this car, a lot like the 64 car, the 21 car, the 33 car, they're running all the races for the Owners' Championship with Sterling Marlin and Scott Legacy Jr. sharing the duties.
Now, he is one of those drivers in 30 guaranteed spots, and he is one of the 30. 45 cars showing up this weekend here in Phoenix for 43 spots.
Casey Kane right now on the racetrack right now, once again in the Ray Evernham number 6.
Ray told me that's one of Tommy Baldwin's old cars they bought from Tommy at the end of last year. They took the car to the wind tunnel, massaged the body a little bit,
Looks like maybe Casey might be making a little practice qualifying here. You see the car get real loose. You could see him working those hands in there. Right now he's 21st quickest, but he jumped up to 4th quickest, and that was as bad as that car looked. He jumped up to 4th quickest.
He was making a qualifying run right there, Larry. And if it hadn't jumped sideways, he probably would be at the top of the charts right now. But it does take just a little bit of a bobble to get you in trouble.
Now, are we seeing a lot of guys jumping up there? Is that going to change things up because different agendas? Some guys out there doing mock qualifying runs, some guys out there just logging miles.
I mean, I think it just takes us into an unknown tomorrow in qualifying. We really don't know who has the fastest race car.
Well, David Stremmy's not going to be running.
Well, I know who has it now, Casey Kane, because he just jumped to the top of the charts on that second lap.
Double duty, and we'll be catching more of Casey later on when he jumps over into his Nextel Cup car as Nextel Cup final practice follows us live right here on Speed. So far, Casey Kane put Dodge up the #1 spot so far, followed by Biffle in a Ford, Nemechek in a Chevrolet, Stremme and Martin Truex Jr., the defending series champion, rounds out your top 5. Qualifying the NASCAR Busch Series tomorrow. Nextel Cup final practices.